All right, I'm going to start up by means of review, and you can see it on the wall or on the board. Yesterday we started out, we talked a little bit about some DDL, which is Data Definition Language. So we talked about some of those commands. In other words, what we covered was create, and we did a drop. In a little bit, we're also going to go over alter. Those are the three commands. One thing I want you to realize, if you look up on the screen here, it doesn't matter. Whenever you use a DDL command like this, it has to be create followed by some kind of a database object. So create a table, create a view, create a database, etc. But it has to be something like that. Drop must be some kind of a database object. Alter must be some kind of a database object. Does that make sense? You have to tell it what you're creating, what you're dropping, or what you're altering. Does that make sense? All right. On the other hand, we also looked at DML, and DML stands for Data Manipulation Language. All right. And in there, we started with select, and then we went in and looked at insert. All right, and we looked a little bit, not much, but at update, and again a little bit, but not much on delete. With those, you do not put in the name of an object afterwards. In other words, you don't say select database, select table. You don't do that. All right, these things right here, DDL, these things that you see right here, those operate on what's called the database schema. All right. In other words, that's the name of your fields, the data types of your fields, and any special restrictions you put on them, not the data itself. These commands operate on the data itself. You have to understand that. That's the key takeaway, so to speak, from yesterday. All right. When we got done with those, we went through just a couple of miscellaneous commands. And those were, as it says right there, they were use, show, and DESC. And what you're going to learn a little bit later today is DESC has two different meanings. Right here, where we used it so far, it means describe. All right? We're going to look at it in just a little bit where it means descending. And don't worry about that. All right? And I sensed, maybe I'm wrong, but I sensed yesterday that at least some of you were getting a bit frustrated. All right? You know, this didn't work, that didn't work. I put a period in instead of a comma. I put in one too many or one too few single quotes. Stuff broke. I had to get out. When we go back in and we learn next week how to use PHPMyAdmin, most of that stuff will all go away. All right? And, you know, good, bad, or indifferent, sometimes I try to come up with non-computer analogies here. And I will tell you, because I'll always remember this, okay? I actually started school, I started kindergarten when I was 4, all right? And I didn't turn 5 until almost the end of the first semester of kindergarten. And you might say, oh, it's no big thing. At that time, it was. Think about that, about over 50 years ago, all right? It was my mom had to write a letter, get special dispensation, and get a bunch of other stuff. All right? Well, and again, I don't remember any of this stuff. I'm not putting myself on a pedestal, but just so you know, it was like a month in, and they called my mom. I didn't know this, but they called my mom in for a meeting. And my mom thought, oh, I'm going to have to pull him out. You know, he's too young, etc. I get it. She was all prepared for that. At the time, my parents had one car. So she got the neighbor to drive her to school. She got in there and she's expecting the worst. She walks in and the kindergarten teacher said, he's way too advanced for kindergarten. We want to move him up to first grade. All right. Again, I don't remember any of this. And my mom said, no, I won't let you do that. He's only 4 and I'm not going to have him do that. Well, I'm taking a short story and making it long, but I want to tell you that what happened was all my friends in school, I was always the youngest. Does that make sense? Because of when I started. So when I went and actually at age 15 got to take driver's education, and at that time that's when the high school still offered it. Okay, I was with all the students who were a year younger than me. In other words, I was already a junior, and they were sophomores, which I didn't think was fair, but that's the way it was. Okay, what does this have to do with anything? Well, first day we were on the range, and of course I was that doofus. I drove up on the curb, and literally drove on the curb for quite a while before I got down. And at the time, the teacher literally had walkie-talkies. We had one in each car. And when we got done, I didn't like this, there were about 10 of us in the class, the teacher did nothing but make fun of me. Okay? You say, Mr. Scott, yeah, we got one person in here who definitely hasn't had any practice driving in the past. You can sure tell that. And he went on and on and on. Okay? So, by the end of the session, we were there 2 weeks. He said I was probably the best driver in the class. Now, if you would have known that class, that wasn't saying a hell of a lot. All right? But the point is, I'd improved. So a lot of times when you feel stunted, or when you feel like when we're going through something new like this, I'm never going to get it, you end up being one of the people who gets it best. Because you've gone through all the trials and tribulations, etc. So I wouldn't let that worry you. Okay? So, with all that, sorry it was longer than I planned on having it be, but I'm going to do two things here. First, I'm going to get into the exam control panel. Notice that when I quit yesterday, okay, it looks like I never even shut these off, so it stayed on. You probably don't want to do this because it's kind of a resource hog, so it can slow down if you've got a lot of other stuff running on your computer. You probably want to stop them both. And then the normal way is to just click quit. All right. Again, if you don't do that, it'll still work. All right. But then when you bring it back up, start. We really don't need Apache running. I just want you to get used to the fact that you've got a web server up and running. And again, I'm going to click shell. And again, I'm going to do the MySQL -u root. Oops. And as we go through this, I want you to understand something. I said this yesterday, but it bears repeating. And that is, I am showing you with a lot of this stuff a way of doing it. I try to come up with what I consider to be the most intuitive way for you to do something. So the way that it may or may not be the easiest, but I'm trying to show you things in what I consider to be the most understandable way. Does that make sense? The reason I'm bringing that up is when we start looking at the book, I'm not always going to do things the way they did it in the book. All right? And not to confuse you, but I'm just trying to make it as simple for you as possible. And I'm bringing that up now because, what is it? Is it tomorrow? Yeah. Tomorrow, please, if you can help it, try not to miss the lecture tomorrow. On this whole thing that we're going to cover, tomorrow is one of the most, 2 or 3 maybe, most important lectures there are. Because we're going to learn how to combine information from 2 or more tables together. All right? All right. So, now I've got that ready. I've got that up and running. And I want to jump back into this. So we're up to chapter 3 right now, how to retrieve data from a single table. That's all this chapter is basically on. So the chapter is about the select statement. And the select statement has a lot of stuff in it. Some of the stuff that's in it is mandatory. Some of the stuff that's in it is optional. All right? So we're going to go over all of that stuff today. Am I expecting you to remember it? Hell no. But I want you to remember this about using this. We looked at this yesterday. So again, if I come in here like we did yesterday and I show my databases, there's Rankin. You asked if it saved it. So if I use Rankin and I say show tables, there's my students table. If I select star from students, that's what we had from yesterday. Does that make sense to everybody? I don't have those extra rows in there. Don't worry about that. That's fine. All right? But is there anything that I've just gone over that doesn't make sense to you? All right, so let's start with some new stuff, such as It is impossible to change data using a select statement. Did you hear that? And I've given this kind of an analogy before. I don't know if I've given it in here or not, but I'll always remember this because years ago I walked into the BMO Harris Bank that I was a member of in South Beloit, Illinois. So I went into that bank because I was interested in getting a car. I wanted to see what their loan rate was. All right. So I had some questions about that anyway. I wanted to see what my credit rating was, what they considered me to be, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So being the idiot that I am, I walked in there and explained all of this stuff to the bank teller. Okay. What do you think she told me? It's right. So, sorry, sir, my job is to deposit money, withdraw money, and give you your balance. All right? Basically, that was her job, and I get it. I guess I wasn't really thinking, but she said, you can go over there, and Miss So-and-so will help you. Okay? Now, I could see, and again, the way the different bank people work is different. I get this. But I could see because the person, the regular banker, the teller, I could see she had her computer turned, and when I came up, she was just entering numbers. They could have been deposits, they could have been withdrawals, they could have been something else. It doesn't matter, okay? But that's what was on her screen. Okay, so I went over and talked to the personal banker. She said, I'll tell you what, I can give you about 15 minutes, but I've got people coming in after that. Boom, 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 fine. So we're sitting there talking, all right? And while we were talking, she got a phone call. Okay, she took the phone call, it was on a landline. She took the phone call and she said, I'll have to check that, check that for you. So she left for a couple minutes. Well, and me being the guy I'm probably not supposed to be, I just had managed to do this and lean way over because I wanted to see her screen. Okay, as you guess, it had a hell of a lot of stuff on there that the bank tellers didn't have. Does that make sense? They had two different views of my data. The view of the bank teller was my current balance, my list of deposits, my list of withdrawals. The thing for the personal banker was much different. So what does this have to do with anything? The select that's right there, that's like me going up to the teller and asking my current balance. That's what it is. I'm asking for information, but I can't change it. I could say to her, that's too low. She'd be like, yeah, well, we all feel that way. But unless I go and deposit something, or I do an insert, it's not going to change. And if I go in there and I do a withdrawal, which is a delete, it's going to be even smaller. Does all that make sense? So this chapter is about looking at data in different ways. This chapter has nothing to do with changing data. All right? Tomorrow, we're going to go over combining information from two or more tables. And Thursday, we're going to go over inserting, updating, and deleting data in a lot more detail. All right? So, we're going to talk about the select statement, how to code it, how to use different things with it, like where, and, or, not, in, between, like, regexp, is null, order by, limit. The idea isn't so much that you memorize any of these, but the idea is that you understand how they're used. So for that reason, as we go through this, if something doesn't make sense, I'm counting on you to ask a question. Does that make sense? All right. Otherwise, I'm going to have to, again, just assume that you get it. So the select statement, as mentioned, in fact, let's go to the next page here. If you look up on the top of the screen, it says select list. Notice that everything else, everything from, where, order by, limit, notice they're all in brackets. That means that every one of those things is optional. All right? So you can just say select followed by something. Why would you want to do that? Well, I think this will work, and if it doesn't, you're going to know it when I know it. But I think I can say select, and I probably don't even need the parens. Okay? I don't know why I would do that, but that's using a select statement like a simple calculator. But notice there's no from. I'm not working with any database. All right, it's as though, you know, I just came in here and decided, yeah, I got to do some quick calculations. I don't want to bring a calculator up. So let's see, somebody just told me that I could have this job where I'd make $58,500 a year, and I was wondering what that comes out to per week. And there it is. All right, so that's about as simple as it can be. That's not using select to work with a database. That's just using a select and providing it information. Okay? All right. So you'll notice again, the from, the where, the order by, and the limit, okay, those are all select statement clauses. So basically, to put it kind of in perspective, what they're saying here is select something from somewhere, and if I don't want everything, this is what's called my search criteria. So for instance, let's say that I was opening up a shop for people like me, big and tall people. I'm not tall, but I'm big. All right? So let's say that I was going to open up something like that, and I had all of your weights. None of you would really even qualify, but let's suppose we had somebody in the class who was more my size. Then I might say, select everybody where the weight is greater than or equal to 240 pounds. Does that make sense? That would be the criteria that I'd be putting in. All right? Then what we're going to get into is this order by. That's going to say, give me that stuff in either descending or ascending order. All right? And finally, this is how many? And if you say that doesn't make sense, we'll look at it this way. Let's assume that at Rankin, between all three campuses, let's assume we have 3,000 students. If I do a select star from students, that's going to give me all 3,000, correct? All right? If I say select star from students where campus equal Wentzville, that's going to knock it down from maybe a few thousand to a few hundred. Okay? Then if I say select star from students where campus equal Wentzville, limit 100, said just show me the first 100 of those. All right? So all I'm trying to show you here is quickly what these things mean. It's one thing to read it on the screen. It's another thing to actually see it in action. So again, using the example, because we haven't put much into our database yet. But if I said this, select star from students where grade equal A, order by, last name, limit 10, as an example. What I'm concerned with is that you understand what that query means. That says, give me everything from the student table, but only where the students, only the A students, all right, or put them in order by last name. They're automatically put in order by that ID number we put in. So I'm telling them I don't want it by ID number, I want it by last name. All right, and I want it by last name in ascending order. And only show me the first 10. Okay, now that doesn't make sense to run that query on here. If I change this to, let's just say 3. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that query. You can do it if you want, but you don't have to. But if you look up on the screen here, I'm going to run that query in here. All right, so in other words, if you look, I'm going to put in here select star from students where grade equal A, order by, last name, limit 3. So notice It's an ascending order by last name. Does that make sense? If I ran the same exact query that you just saw, but instead of saying order by last name, when you say order by last name and you don't say anything after it, it assumes you mean this. Anybody want to guess what that stands for? Ascending. So if I want it in descending order, I put that DESC in there. All right? So now if I do this, and I say again, limit 3, notice I get 3 different people. Does that make sense? All right? Again, what I'm most concerned with is that you understand the structure of the query. That says, give me everything from the students table, and only those students that have A's, and give me just, for lack of better words, the last 3 on the list. Whereas previously it said, give me the first 3 on the list. This right here, order by last name, is the same thing as saying order by last name ASC. You can put that down, but it's repetitive to do that. All right? Now, what if I don't want everything? What if I just want their names? I can come back and instead of saying select star, I can say select first name, last name, from students, where grade equal A, order by last name descending. Let's just list all of them. And there's everybody. We did just a select star, which means show me everything. All right? If you want everything and you want it in the order in which it's in the database, you do a select star. But what if you've got a table that's got 15 fields in it? Now you've got 15 fields of information. It's probably going to be wider than your screen. And a lot of the time, you don't want everything. All right? I mean, did I really have to list their grade? Because I put a where in there that said we're grade equal A. So if all I want is a list of names, this is the way I do it. All right? And since I put order by last name descending, if I run the same query, but I don't put DESC, we don't have to, but I'll put ASC. So notice it's Andrew, Josh, Evan, Matthew, Jesse, Devin, Ryan, Tony. But now it's the other order. And I don't have to order them by last name. I could have ordered them by first name, for example. We don't have 2 people in here with the same last name, but we could. All right? So, like I said, I know I'm spending a lot of time on this because this is the basic stuff. This is the stuff that as a database person, you're going to be writing queries like this all the time. All right? So they give you examples. Are they better than mine? There are other examples. Select star, select just certain names with the order by. You can even do math in here if you want to. We don't have any fields where we can really do math, but we could have. All right? If we wanted to, we could have done something. We don't have any dates in here. You know, we could have added a field like start date. You know, so for 6 of the 8 of you in this class, the start date would have been August 2017. For the other 2, it would have been January 2018. Get it? All right, so we can put anything we want in here. And what we'll get to is you can do math in here. You can even do math with dates. All right? And there's sometimes you'd want to do that. We'll talk about that later. So, how to code the select clause. How to code column specifications. Guess what? That's what we just looked at. All right? Now, one thing about this is if you do look, go back and look on the screen here, you saw me do this already, but when I do, when I do a select star from students, all right, there's a lot of duplication there. Can everybody see that? And I really and truly don't mean the grades, but there's a lot of duplication in the class. All right? So notice if I said this, select class from students. This is what I mean. There's a lot of duplication there. All right? Because when you say select class like that, what the system really sees is this. Select all class from students. That's what it sees. All right? But what if I don't want those? What if they're all the same class, what if I only want to show it once? Are you with me? I only want it once. Then instead of saying select all, you say select distinct. And then notice we only get one. Now, why is that important? Later, let's suppose that, I know we don't have that really here, but let's suppose at Rankin that we have students from all over the country. Okay? Then what we'll be able to do eventually is get a count. How many students are here from Illinois? How many students are here from Missouri? How many students are here from Arkansas? How many students are here from Tennessee? Etc. Does that make sense? And when we do that, if there's 800 students from Missouri, I don't want MO 800 times. I want it once. And then I want a count of that. All right? So that's what we're going to be moving towards. We'll get into that stuff next week. Again, I'm just going to keep going unless somebody stops me. All right. So again, the star retrieves all columns. When you do the star, you have virtually no control over the order in which stuff comes back. It comes back in the same order it's in the database. So if you don't want it to be that order, then you have to manually put in what you want. So again, yeah, and I realize I'm being repetitive. So if I type in here, select star from students, that's what I get. Okay? But if I don't want the Rankin IDs, maybe that's privileged information. If all I want is the first name, the last name, the class, and the grade, I don't do a select star. I have to say select first name, last name, class, grade from students. And you can note the difference. All right? And that's exactly what they're saying in the book right here. Star gives you everything. Otherwise, you have to put in the names of the columns that you want. All right? Using star is, most books will tell you, don't do it unless you have to. It's not bad. In our case, we only have 4 or 5 fields. But once you get 20 fields in a table, using star it typically isn't good. It's going to give you more information than you want. It's going to give you more information than you need. All right. So how to set the name to the result set using an alias? Well, did you notice this? I'm asking you right here. That when I did my select star from students, see those names that are up there? Rank and ID, first name, last name, class, and grade? I'm asking you this question. Where did they get those names from? No. Well, we did, but they're the field names. I don't want those names. I want them all to be changed because I don't like the way they look. So I'm going to say select Rankin ID as, we're just going to call that ID, comma, first name as. Now, when we do this, we want to put first space name. Does that make sense? I want to put a space in there. Then I have to put this in double quotes. First space name. All right, I'm just going to hit enter and I'll keep going. Last name as last space name. All right, class is fine as it is. And grade is fine as it is. From students. So notice the difference. Now we've taken control over what the headings look like. The reason I'm telling you that is quite often what database people have to do is they have to prepare reports for their managers. Managers don't like reports with names like this. They'd rather have names like this. So you know how you can do that. Doing this using as, etc., and I think it even works just to show you this, I think I can remove the word as. And it still works. It used to be the word as that was in there was mandatory. So I use it all the time. I'm just used to using it. But even if you leave it off, it still works. Did you see that? So if I asked you to use aliases, I don't care if you use as or not. Do it whatever way you want. Well, I'm not going to put as in there. It's more work. Okay, that's fine. Then don't do it. But these things that you see in here, whether you use as or not, ID, first space name, last space name, those are called aliases. Just so you know that. That's going to become important when we combine information from two tables. We do that tomorrow. Arithmetic expressions. Again, we don't have a good reason to put arithmetic expressions in this table. All right, but just so you see this, if we said this, and again, this is going to be kind of stupid, but select first name, last name, 55 divided by 6 as result, I don't know, from students. Okay? Again, it's kind of stupid, but I just wanted you to see you can put calculations in there in a select statement. So why is this important? Well, what if we wanted to do something with GPAs or calculate a GPA? We'd use your grade and we give it points or whatever. We could do that if we wanted to or had to do that. There's also something that you can use called Concat. What does Concat mean? It means kind of what you think it would mean. In other words, combine or glue two things together. All right? So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say select Concat first name, do it the other way, last name, comma, space, first name as full name from students. Jeez. I've got an error. So let's see, select Concat. Oh, I didn't put my ending parenthesis in there. Right there. Is that pretty obvious what that does? It allows you to glue together or concatenate two different fields. Now you might look at that and say, well, I don't like that. I liked it better before. The stuff was split, etc. Yeah. But if I was preparing a report, again, I could do this, and you'll notice it is right now in ascending order. All right? But I could come in here if I wanted to, and I could say order by first name. I mean, that's kind of silly, but we could do that. And there it is. Andrew, Devin, Evan, Jesse, etc. So you've got total control over what you're doing here and how you're doing it. That's the bottom line. All right? How to work with functions. Well, there's built-in functions that you can use. All right? Did you notice before when I did this, how it came out to 9.16667? Everybody see that? Well, what do we have here? This select first name, last name, 55 divided by 6. So let's do that again. Select first name, last name, 55 divided by 6. You don't need all those spaces, but easier to read, as result from students. All right, you just saw that. So I'm going to run this again, but I'm going to say, you know what I want? I want you to take this that we just did. I want you to round that. And I want it rounded. I want it rounded to 2 decimal places. Is that pretty obvious what that just did? So you can do some working with math when you're doing some stuff in here. All right? And that's explained. They give you a few other things. There's some stuff that you can work on with dates, etc. I probably should have put a date field in there. I didn't. All right. How to test expressions by coding statements without a from clause. Guess what? You already saw that. That's like select when I showed you the math stuff. All right. So I'm not going to run through that again. How to eliminate duplicate rows. Guess what? I've already shown you that. That's using the distinct and the all. All right. So you'll notice in the example that they show here, select vendor city, comma, vendor state from vendors, order by vendor city. Okay, and you'll notice there's repeating here. California's twice, Michigan's twice, Massachusetts is 3 times. If you run the same query and you say distinct city, it's going to show less results because it's going to only show every city 1 time. So you say it here, well, and I guess I use the state. But here we've got Anaheim, Anaheim, Boston, Boston, Boston. So notice Anaheim's only in here once, Boston's only in here once. All right? So distinct, and you can only have 1 distinct thing. You can't say like select distinct vendor city, comma, distinct vendor state. You can't do that. All right? It just won't work because the system can't basically reconcile that. All right? All right. Where clause. We've looked at this a little bit. This is on pages 92 and 93. If you look up on the screen here, am I right in assuming, you know, you're all passing this course, so you all understand what equal to, less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, not equal to, what those all mean. Notice with not equal, you can use either one of those. You could use angle brackets, a less than followed by a greater than. Can't do them in the other direction. Can't put a greater than followed by a less than. That won't work. Or you can use exclamation point equal. I would recommend you use the exclamation point equal just because of the fact in most software packages, that's how you do inequality. But if you like the other way better, then go for it. All right. Now, if you look at the examples here, where vendor state equal Iowa. Hopefully, that's just pretty self-evident what that is. All right. And here they're showing 2 different ways that you can do, do different kinds of math. Notice you can use less than, greater than, equal to, not equal to with numbers, with strings, and with dates. All right, so you can check 2 dates to see which came before which. All right, and what you'll see in a couple days when we start looking at some of the aggregate functions, you can use the aggregate functions with dates, and you can use the aggregate function with strings also. And, or, and not, again, it's saying the same stuff that you learned in the C# part of the class. When you got if A and B, they both have to be true, right? That's what an and is. If you say if A or B, either A has to be true or B has to be true, or they both have to be true. When we did not, we did an exclamation point. Now for not, you can use the word not. This is very English-like. Notice you use the word and, you use the word or, you use the word not. Don't use a double ampersand, don't use a double pipe sign, and don't use the exclamation point for these. All right? All right, I want to show you this because this I'm going to write a query right now, and this is the query the mistake most people who are just starting this stuff make. All right? So let's say that I wanted to write a query like this. Let's assume that I wanted to print out everybody. I realize you all have distinct first names and last names. But for a second, we're going to pretend we've got a bunch of Jessies in here. Okay? So we've got more than one person named Jesse. All right? And we're going to assume that we have, I don't know, more than one person, because I'm just looking at them, named Tony in here. All right? So what most people would write in is something like this. Select first name from students where first name equal Jesse or Tony. And I'm going to ask you a question before I run this. Is this going to work or is it not going to work? Okay? I'm going to say it's not going to work, and I'll show you why in just a second. All right? Now, notice we have a Tony, right? And it didn't find it. You're actually right. But I'm surprised it didn't give me an error. Okay? Why? Because we should have actually written it like this. That's the correct way to write that. Notice now we get them both. But most people think, well, what, isn't it smart enough to know that it's the first name? No, it's not. Now, what if we have this? What if I want to check for all of you? Okay, I end up writing a god-awful looking query. So I say select first name from students where first name equal Tony or first name equal Jesse, Jesse, or first name equals Devin, or first name equals Matthew, or, you know, and I mean, notice I'm still going, first name equal Ryan, or first name equals, I think I put you in as Joshua, or first name equals Andrew, and we've got our missing in action here, first name equal Evan. Now, hopefully I didn't type in anything wrong. We're going to find out, though. And notice it gives me 8 names. I don't know if you agree with this or not. That's a really ugly-looking query, and that's a query that's really easy to make a mistake in. All right? So is there an easier way to write it? The answer is yes. So you see what that looks like. But now I'm going to rewrite that as select first name from students, and I'm going to say where first name in, which is a key word, Tony, Jesse. I'm just going to keep going. It's 4. I think that's all 8 of you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't know if you exactly agree. The second way is a little cleaner. You may or may not agree with that. There's nothing at all wrong with writing it this way as opposed to writing it this way. Notice it says, too, the time that it took, it says 0.00 seconds. That's not true. Nothing takes no time at all. But it was so short to actually run that it came back as 0.00. All right? So all I'm trying to show you is you can use in. Now, what if I wanted everybody in here that was not named Jesse. All right, so I could say select star from students where first name, and I can either say not equal, I can do it like that, or I can do it like this. And you notice it doesn't have record 4, which is Jesse, right? All right, so the other way I could write that would be to say select star from students where first name not in Jesse. And I get the same thing. That makes sense? All right. A couple more examples and then we'll take a break. All right. If you look at here, this is not going to be a great example, but I just want to show it to you. So if I wanted to show, I'm going to go back and run the initial query again. So select star from students. All right. No confusion. I'm not trying to trick you. Would you agree there's 8 students in here and their IDs go from 1 to 8? That's what it is. What if I only want to show the students with an ID number between 3 and 7? Are you with me? That's what I want. Okay? So I can come in and say select star from students where Rankin ID is greater than or equal to 3 and Rankin ID is less than or equal to 7. And you notice it works. There's absolutely nothing wrong. That's a fine query. There's nothing wrong with it. The other way I can write that is select star from students where Rankin ID, and I'm going to just get rid of all this stuff that's in here, and I can say between 3 and 7. I think that's a little bit cleaner. Again, you may agree, you may not agree with that. And either way, it's fine. All right? But I'm showing you because this is what's shown in the book. There's some examples here with the in operator, and there's some examples on the next page with the between operator. And I think that operator is misnamed. It's not between, it's between and. Okay? And I want to show you one more thing. Please look up on the screen because this is the most important part of this part of the lecture. Notice this. If I'd have said right there where the mouse is right now, if I had said select star from students where Rankin ID greater than 3 and Rankin ID is less than 7, I would not have gotten those results, right? I would have gotten 4, 5, and 6 because I want stuff that's greater than 3 and I want stuff that's less than 7. So I have to remember if I want to include those to put a greater than or equal to. All right, or to say greater than 2. I would have had to change it one way or the other. With the between and, that's inclusive. That says give me everything from here to here, including this one and including that one. All right? It's recommended that you use in and you use the between or between and operator when you can. They have specifically been written to work with databases. All right? And they should work faster than, so this way should work faster than this way does. And it may not sound like a big thing, but if you're dealing with millions of names, it can be a big thing. All right? Let's see what we got. 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 5 pages left in here. I'm just going to go, and it'll probably take about 10 or 15 minutes. Then we'll take a nice long break. All right? All right. Now again, and I want to just keep saying this to you, I'm hitting the high points from this. I feel very fortunate that I was able to find this PDF. If you want to learn it, where if you think to yourself, this stuff's kind of cool, I get it. I'd maybe like to be a database guy. There's stuff in this book that I'm not covering, even in the chapters we're going over. All right? Such as, well, back here, when they showed this, I'm not going over that. That's called a subquery. That's a query within a query. Why am I not going over that? Because we're doing it next week. And it's not my goal to confuse you right now. I have plenty of time to do that. All right, because we have several different chapters to cover yet. All right, but I'm trying to ease you into this stuff gradually, for lack of better words. All right, now the like and the regular expression operators. So let's look at that. If we look in here, let's go back and run our initial query again. All right, I'm looking, and you can see, good, we have something that'll work here. And that is, we've got two students whose first name starts with a J. You agree with that? All right. So I can come in here and I can say, I could say this, select star from, I keep trying to put these on two lines. You don't have to. And I could say where first name, I could say this, I could say equals Jesse, or first name equals Joshua. I could do that. You already know that. That works. All right, and it'll give me that. Or I could come in here and say, select star from students, where first name in, and I could come in here and put Jesse, comma, Joshua, and that works. They're both fine, correct? But what if I have James, Janice, Jack? I won't find them, correct? So if I want everyone whose name starts with a J, I can simply write it like this. Select star from students, where first name, like, it's a key word, like, and I put in single quotes here, I say J followed by a percent sign. Notice I get the same results. The percent sign is like using an asterisk. It means 0 or more characters. This says, select for me from the student, select everything from the student table, but the first name has to begin with J followed by anything. Doesn't matter what it is, but it's got to be followed, it's got to have a J in it. So again, if we look in here, does it always have to be what? I mean like this? That's what I'm going to show you right now. That is one of the symbols, okay? But again, when I do select star from students, all right, well, when we look in here, what do we have? That won't work very well, but let's see. Here we've got Kochmeyer with an M right here. We've got Moore with an M right here. We've got Williams with an M right there. Do you agree? If I do this, oops, if I come in here and say, select star from students where first name like is that going to find everybody? No. It's only going to find Matthew because his is the only one that starts with an M. But if I want it where there's an M in there someplace, this is sort of answering your question. Then I can say percent sign, M percent sign. That says it can start with anything, it can end with anything, but somewhere in the name it has to have an M. So that should find, if we wrote this query correctly, it should find what? It should find Matthew, and I should have done last name. I guess you are the only one. So, whoops. So let's try that again with last name. So I'm going to say where last name, like that. And notice Kochmeyer, Moore, Williams. That says anywhere. So to kind of answer your question in an ask backwards way, sort of, if you're looking for part of a pattern or a pattern, then you're going to need to use that. All right? What if what I wanted in here, and again, let's look and see if I can find something. All right? Notice that with Kochmeyer, Moore, and Wolf, you see that? See how the second letter, all right, is an O? You with me? The second letter is an O. Well, I could sit there and do this. I could say select star from students, where last name equal, like that. What did I do? Oh, damn it. It's going to kick me out because notice I didn't put an ending single quote there. So I'm going to get it kicked out. Okay, there we go. All right. So again, I just want to run the query one more time. Select star from students where last name like and notice what it gave me. It also gave me Evan. I didn't want Evan. I only wanted students whose second letter, just the second letter, all right, just that one, was an O. And don't ask me why I'd want that. I'm just trying to show you some of the stuff that's in here. So I'm going to come back and I'm going to write this query like this. Instead of saying like that, I'm going to say like. First letter doesn't matter. So it can be anything. That's a single character, an underscore. The second character must be O, and then it can be followed by anything. Notice the difference? That's called pattern matching. You can also do pattern matching with what's called regular expressions. I'm not going to write those right now. But if you want some examples, they're shown in the book on page 101. All right, I think we do. We'll break it early. So what I'm going to do is, let's see. I'm at 57 minutes. Let's come back. Let's take a break. Come back at 9:25. When we come back, I'm going to finish the chapter. I've only got about 8 pages left, and then we'll talk about a few more things. But at 10 o'clock today, I'm going to give you some time to try this stuff. All right, so let's take a break right now. All right, I'm going to finish up the chapter then. If you look up on the screen, what I want you to understand is when you use regular expressions, in many ways, it's like using that pattern matching I gave you before. But it's stronger because pattern matching only allows you to say something's here, something's not here in a position. This allows you to put in patterns. So for instance, this would say, give me any city that has an RS in it or has an SN in it. So regular expressions, it's reg exp is the way that that's pronounced, is an unbelievably powerful thing. There are whole books you could buy on regular expressions. Now, I want to show you this. You don't have to look at this, but you might be interested when you get some time in taking a look at it. And I think it's regular-expression.info, I believe it is. I may have even shown you this in one of the other classes. I don't remember. But the point is, if you take a look at that, and I'm going to give you, this is the URL, again, if you're interested. If you're not interested, it's not a problem. But that's it. If you want to find out how to use regular expressions, that's kind of the ultimate guide. All right? And I will tell you that if you are a programmer, you will use regular expressions. They allow you to search for patterns in anything. So suppose your boss comes up to you and says, hey, all over the world, we have 50 million customers. I want you to find all the ones that meet this criteria. You're going to use a regular expression. All right? All right. Anybody have any idea what null means? Null, N-U-L-L? That's what most people think it means, is nothing. Okay? Let's say that, Tony, let's say right now I say to you, what's your GPA? Let's say you have absolutely no idea. What are you going to tell me? What?
No.
No. You're not going to say no. What are you going to tell me?
4.0.
No. If you don't have any idea what your GPA is, hey, what's your GPA? What are you going to tell me? That's what null is. It's unknown. It's not zero. It's not blank. It's unknown. All right? So, for instance, if let's say that I'm starting a new company and I hire each one of you, all right, to come work for me, and I've interviewed half of you. All right, so I've interviewed 4 of the 8 of you, and I've made offers, and I don't know if you'll accept or not, but I've given you monetary offers. With the other 4 of you, you're from out of state. So I have interviewed you over the phone, I've offered you the job, and you've taken the job, but we haven't talked money yet. Your salary is null. Does that make sense? I'm asking, does that make sense? Because you have to understand null. It's unbelievably important in the concept of databases. It's not the empty string, it's not blank. All right? So if you look, please look up on the screen here. You may or may not be able to read this. That right there says null. So in other words, for these invoices, we didn't have a total for invoice ID 3. There was no total. I don't know how. There wasn't one. Well, shouldn't it be 0? No, there wasn't one. Somehow it was never put in to the system. All right? So it goes in as null. So if you check in there and you say, hey, can you show me every one that has an invoice total of 0? It finds that one and it finds that one. It doesn't find that one. But if you say, show me every one where the invoice is null, it'll show you that one. Does that make sense? It's not equal null. Don't use equal with null. It's if you want to check for null, it's is null. And if you want to check for ones that are not null, it's is not null. Order by we've talked about pretty much already, but it is possible. This is new, so if you look up on the screen, please here, when you use order by, all right, you can sort by a column name, which is what I showed you. All right, sort order by vendor name, etc. But if you don't want to do that, you can also order by a column number. So you can literally work with numbers in here if you want to do that. Would you want to do that? I don't know. All right. Now, I showed you this before. We're almost done with the chapter, but I showed you this before. Select star from students order by first name. And you can see the order that it is. You can see that it's not in rank and ID order anymore. It's not in last order anymore, etc. But I can order by more than one column if I want to. So if I put in this, it's going to look exactly the same, just so you know. But if I put in here last name, okay, if I run that, it's going to look exactly the same as this one. But what I want you to understand is this says order them by first name, right? But if there's any ties, so if we had 2 Jessies, let's say we had Jesse Moore and we had Jesse Smith. Jesse Moore would come before Jesse Smith because M comes before S. All right? So if you order by more than one, it goes from major to minor order. You put the most major one first, then the next one's more minor. You can order by as many fields as you want to. All right? But you're going to get different results. So in other words, if I do this, if I say select star from students, order by first name, comma, last name, I get that. If I run the exact same query, but instead of first name, last name, I say last name, comma, first name, so all I did was flip those. Notice that my results are inverted. Andrew was on top, now he's on the bottom. Josh was Oh, because it's my first name. So it's ADEJJMRT. But now it's T, what did we say? I guess we did last name. CKL, etc. You get it. All right? So you've got, as a programmer, you've got the ultimate power over how this is done. All right? I already showed you this, but I want to show it one more time. And that is, if I do a select star from students, it shows me everything. Make sense? If there were 500 students, it would go brrr, and it would keep going. Okay? It would just keep going. Now, if I only want to show the first 3, I can say limit 3. And that's all I get. So what limit does is it only shows you a certain number. All right? But I can also give it what's called an offset. So I should be able to do this. Limit 3, 2. All right? What did that say? It said, hey, skip numbers 1, 2, and 3, start with the next one, which would be 4, and show me the next 2. See that? So you can do that any way you want to do it. All right? Limit is typically used a lot if you've got a boatload of records. A lot of records. All right? All right, I want to show you one more thing, and that is this. If you look up on the screen here, this is pretty important. Okay, so this is our data. You've already seen this. There's our data. You also have seen this. This is that's our schema. All right? Now you know what that means. We can leave any of these null. Where it says yes, that means they can be null. Probably if I was setting this up, I would probably not make that null, not make that null, not make that null. Maybe these 2 could be. Does that make sense? Maybe I don't know what classes they're in. Maybe I don't know what their grade is. All right? So that would probably be a no, 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 yes, yes. And I'll show you in just a second how we can change that. All right? Right now, there's no key in here. That's a really important thing. And notice that the default, if we put nothing in, nothing, they all become null. All right? So you know again what null means. It would mean unknown ID, unknown first name, unknown last name, unknown class, unknown grade. All right? Now, what I want to show you, what I'm about to show you here, this is bad. What I'm going to put in right now, this is bad. So I'm going to say insert into students. And what do we have in here again? We've got our fields. So we've got Rankin ID, first name, last name, class, grade, values, and I'm going to put me in, okay? And I'm going to give myself 4. I don't even know which one of you is 4. It doesn't matter. But I'm going to put 4. That's going to be my ID, my name, first name, my last name. All right. The class, I'll do the afternoon class, AWD1100. And my grade, I am not a great student. All right. I'm not a terrible student. All right. And it worked. Would you agree with that? It worked. I got back 1 row affected. Now if I select star from students, what's the problem with this the way it currently exists? I'm asking you that question. What is the problem with this the way it currently exists? Don't say there isn't one. There is. There are 2 people with the same rank and ID. All right? You wouldn't want 2 people with the same social security number. All right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of my record. So I'm just going to say here, I'm going to say delete from students where, and I want you to realize this, I want to delete just my record, okay? But I don't want to say delete from students where rank and ID is 4, because that's going to remove me and Jesse. I don't want to do that. But I can say delete from this where first name is Jeff, or I can say, or last name is Scott, or I can say class equals this, or I can say grade equals this, because those are all unique. Does that make sense? So I'm going to get rid of this. I'm just going to say where first name equals Jeff. Run it again, and I'm gone. Does all that make sense? Okay. Now, and I want to make sure I'm giving you the right thing in here. I'm going to put in here now, this is new. You have not seen this before. I'm going to type in alter table students, students. All right, I'm going to say modify column Rankin ID, and I'm going to put in here int 11 primary key auto increment. Good. So what did I just do? I'm going to come back and show you in a second, but remember this? Remember this right here? We just looked at, where is it? Where is it? See that? How none of them say anything in there? See this? All right, I'm going to come back and I'm going to describe students again. See the difference? See this? That's now a primary key. A primary key is a unique record identifier. We're saying that the Rankin ID is the primary key. So I want you to write this down. I want you to write down this command or key it in. That's even better. Key it into your Rankin thing. Alter table students, modify column Rankin ID int 11 primary key auto increment. And if you're having problems, please look up on the screen here. Make sure it's auto underscore increment. I'm going to talk to you about everything that means as soon as you get it put in. So in about 30 seconds or so. Please put in that, everything that's in here. You can put it all in a one line if you want, or you can break it up into 2 lines like I did. If you put it in and you think you typed it in correctly, but it's giving you an error, raise your hand. All right? Get out of the way here. We have now talked about all 3 DDL commands. This is alter. Again, if you type it in slowly, if you make a mistake, but you don't think you made a mistake, raise your hand. Again, previously, this field right here was blank. Now it says pry in front of it. So now we're adding, we've looked at DDL, we've looked at DML, we've looked at miscellaneous, but now we use alter, and we're also working with what's called a primary key. That's a unique record identifier. And ideally, it will be unintelligible. Unintelligible. I think that's right. In other words, don't use Social Security number as a primary key. We really shouldn't even use Rankin ID. I mean, Rankin ID to me wouldn't be the same thing as your Rankin number. If your Rankin number is 5 or 6 digits, right? It's something like 124, 124. All right? That's not what this is. Now, did anybody try doing this where you think you typed it in, you put it in correct, but it's giving you an error? Do you understand what we just did? I'm going to assume that you don't. So I want to show you what we just did. All right? I want to show you because this is, I actually did something where Wow, I screwed up, but in a good way. All right. So if you look up here, please, everybody, look up on the screen here. I think you'd all agree. I put myself in here. All right. And as Josh said, we now had 2 people with an idea 4. But it worked, right? It worked. Now I'm going to try to put me in again in exactly the same way. So insert into students, rank in all, etc. Values. Now, if we did it right, this will not work any longer because I've already got a primary key of 4. Does that make sense? It worked previously. It doesn't work now. You put in primary keys so that each record you put in is somehow unique. All right? And I know that Jesse told me that he's had stuff with his dad. I don't know if your dad's got the same name as you. Let's just pretend, for sake of argument, that Jesse and his dad have the same name. Okay? So, if we did this, they could have the same first name, the same last name. Let's say they were both in this class and they both had an A. That would be possible. But now they will each have their own rank and ID, which must be unique. So this is for the case where you've got, for example, 2 people who have the same first name, middle name, last name, live at the same residence, all right, but you want to be able to distinguish between them. Does that make sense? You say, well, that's why we have a social security number. No, not in a database. You don't want a primary key to be intelligible. I mentioned this yesterday. If I get Jesse's social security number, I can do a lot more with that than I can by knowing his rank and ID is 4. All right? You want primary keys to be unintelligible. All right? Now, this is, I promise, this is the last thing. If you want to start playing with this stuff, all right, I don't know where you are, so some of you have been turning in your homework in the last couple days. I'll still take homework. You're going to lose some points because it's late, but I'll still take homework. I've tried. I think I'm up to date. I know, Jesse, you gave me some yesterday. I haven't graded that yet, but most everybody should be up to date. If you think, oh, I turned in everything and you haven't given me, then just send me an email, and I'll try to do it this afternoon. All right? But what I want to show you is this. If you'd all look up on the screen here. One of the things I sent you yesterday was this and this. Now, what we have in here is, this is a brand new table, a brand new database that's called sales order example. See that? You know now, you know exactly what that means because we did a create database. So you know what that means. This says create a brand new database named sales order example. This says make it active. All right? This says create a table with this stuff in it. Create a table with this stuff in it. Create a table with this stuff in it. Create a table with this. 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 And then make some changes. So in other words, it's saying create a database and then throw in about 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 tables. All right? Jesse asked me a question yesterday. I'm going to attempt to answer it right now. Please look up on the screen. All right? What I'm going to do here is I'm going to come in here. I'm going to do a Control A to highlight everything and a Control C to copy everything. Do you agree? I've copied everything to the clipboard. All right? Now I'm going to go back to here, and I don't have to change. I'm just going to see, I'm going to right mouse click, and it pasted everything in. See that? Now, if it worked, and I do show databases, now notice I've got a database called sales order example. So if I use sales orders example, I spell it wrong. Yes, I did. If I use sale orders example and I show tables, now I've got all those tables. So I can come in here and I can say select star from customers. and it says that it's empty. Because I didn't put that other file in yet with the data. All right, but please look again on the screen. The other file that I gave you was this. Guess what that is? It's the data. So I'm going to, again, Control A, Control C to copy. I'm going to come back to here, and I'm going to right mouse click, and it's going to throw all that data in there for me. I don't know if you agree with this. I'd much rather do it that way than to have to manually type it in. Yeah, there's quite a bit of data. Tomorrow, we're going to show how you can join two tables together. Did you hear me? How we can combine two tables. What I'm going to ask is don't work ahead. All right, what do I mean? A friend of mine and I, we taught a database class together, okay? And we showed people how to combine information from tables. And some of them were like, oh, I know how to do that. And they started doing stuff on their own. What they ended up doing was they took a table that had 6,307 records and they joined it on itself. You made a big deal. That's over 3 million records when you do that. That's not what you'd want to do. So the problem was when they did it, they told it to print it out. And they were sitting in the back of the room, and it was like where Tony is. I couldn't see their computer. So they spent all period, their computer just kept spitting out and spitting out and spitting out because it was trying to print out 3 million records. Finally, during a break, they said, can I ask you a question? And all they had to do was a control break to stop it, but they didn't know that. All right. So now, remember before how I said select star from customers and it said empty set. Now I've got 27 customers. Now, please do not remove this file, that I gave you yesterday, the sales order data or the sales order structure. But if you want to, copy in, and you must do the structure first. The data has to be second. The data needs structure. This, again, I want you to understand, this is setting up the database schema. These are the DDL commands. That's what are in here. The ones with the data, those are the DML commands. All right? So now I can come in and notice there's 27 customers. There's a bunch of, okay, it looks like we got a lot of orders. Would you agree? Looks like there's a lot of orders in there, I mean, as far as I can tell. So I'm going to say this. Describe orders. All right? And each has got a number, it's got a date, etc. It's got a bunch of other stuff. So I'm going to say select star from orders. And notice we've got, wow, lots. 944. So you can go and you can use any of these tables, and I'd like you to go back and kind of page through your book and practice the different stuff that's in chapter 1, and that's in chapter 2, and that's in chapter 3. That make sense? You're going to learn a certain amount by listening to me and watching me and doing stuff yourself, but when you're doing stuff just by yourself on your own, you're going to learn one hell of a lot more. So I'm giving you the rest of the period today to work on that. Tomorrow in class, just so you know, tomorrow in class, I plan on going over the next chapter. The next chapter is probably the second hardest of the ones we'll cover. Okay? And just to show you what we're going to do tomorrow, okay? If you look up on the screen here, please. Promise, I'm just about done. But if I say describe customers, all right? There's everything that's in the customers table, correct? Now I'm going to say describe vendors. And you'll notice, what do we have here? We have anything in common? No, we don't. All right, so that was a crummy example. All right, show tables. All right, describe orders. So there's our orders. Describe order details. Do you notice how order number is in here and order number is in here? Do you see that? We're going to combine information tomorrow from two tables like that. That's when you start to really bring in the power of using this stuff. All right, so that's the plan for tomorrow. So it's about as long a chapter, I think, as today was. About 30 pages. We should be able to do that, again, by no later than 9 to 10 o'clock. Then I'm going to give you more time tomorrow to work on this. Got it? Then Thursday, we're going to go over Chapter 5 and the same thing. At the end of the period on Thursday, you don't have to look, but please listen. At the end of the period on Thursday, I'm going to give you a worksheet with a bunch of problems on it that are going to go over all the stuff we've done in the first 5 chapters. All right? Then at a minimum, Monday of next week, I'm going to give you time. I'm going to give you time, the whole period, to work on that worksheet. It won't be due for like about a week, but you'll get the whole period to work on it. All right? And the last thing I'll tell you, Ethan asked me yesterday, he said, hey, do you need me to start coming back in again? And I said, yeah, I'm planning on only lecturing until 10 o'clock. And he said he's going to try to come in here around 10 any day that he can make it. So feel free to utilize him. He really knows his database stuff. The project that we did last year, he was the database lead guy. All right, so he really gets it. He's got XAMPP on his computer. All right, he's more than willing and wanting to help you. All right, I don't mind giving you some help, but that's his job. All right, so I'm hoping he's going to be in here in a few minutes. Any questions? All right, so hopefully so far, if you look up on the screen, you have some kind of an understanding of how to do this stuff. Now, as far as the insert, the update, and the delete, we're going to go into that in more detail in Chapter 5. Even if you screw this up in here, even if I accidentally remove one of these tables, I can always go back and I can go into these files and do them over again. See what I'm saying? All right, that's it.